Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 7th episode of CounterAction. Normally, you would have Andrew and Jonathan hosting the show, but they thought it would be funky, fun, and fresh to have us, myself, Felicia, and Ashley on to talk about what we go through living with veterans every single day of our lives. Normal housekeeping stuff. Woo, spirit fingers. Okay, Counteraction's mission is to change the stigmas in effort to bring veteran and civilian communities together through a place of understanding. We hope to ultimately be a part of changing policies and perhaps down the line nonprofit things to help change laws to better serve the veterans of our country. So as per the usual, make sure you hit that like button and the subscribe button down below. That really helps us out. Leave a comment with something you found super interesting, or that maybe you didn't know something. And go ahead and you can follow this. You can download it on any and all of the platforms. You can also find the link to this on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, and many, many more places. I don't have the list. It just says more. So if you have any questions or you have topics that you think would make great episodes, you can go ahead and give CounterAction 15 a follow on Twitter. That will be linked down in the description box. Or you can email Jonathan and Andrew at counteraction22@gmail.com, which should also be in the description box because I read that very fast. All the links for all the other platforms should be listed down in the description box on YouTube as well. So if you are watching this on a podcast, my bad for the past 2 minutes of rambly nonsense. Okay, so we're going to talk about what it's like living with a veteran, and I would like to first state that because many veterans deal with mental health issues, this is basically no different than living with anybody with mental health issues, but just because of the stigma that veterans have surrounding them, and because they served in the military where they trained to be more violent, that the stigma is that the veterans themselves are, in fact, more violent, more easy to provoke, and in general, overall more traumatized. And that's just not true. They're just people like you and me. Yeah, they have that training. Cool. That's excellent. That doesn't mean that they're more predisposed to like have violent actions than anybody else. At least I haven't seen any research that says that veterans are more prone to that. I think it's just the nature of like dealing with the mental health and dealing with the VA and trying and having to fight so hard to just be heard that causes the homeless problems and causes these outlashes in like the media and whatnot to be taken in a very negative way.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you would like to say, Ashley?
No, I disagree with everything that, you stated. And I was even, as I was thinking about what to say for all of this, because I was like, how is my life different? Because I live with a veteran as opposed to a civilian. But yeah, what you're saying is true. It's not really that, it's different because they're a veteran. It's just the stigma that is surrounding it. So yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, the other problem that I see a lot and I hear Andrew talking about, I'm sorry if I call him a different name. It just happens.
It's all good, I understand.
I mostly call him by his gamer tag and not so much his first name because like I have so many people in my life named Andrew. So it's just like, it's just weird. I'm a weirdo. It's fine. So the other thing that kind of like brings up more issues with like veterans is that because they are such a large male population and because of the male gender roles within our society in the United States, they are told to suppress all this crap. And in military training, they have to suppress all this, not all the mental health stuff. They have to be able to suppress it. And they don't, in my opinion, the military does not do a good enough job teaching the soldiers how to cope. They do a really good job of teaching them how to shove all that crap down so that they're not feeling it right now, but they don't teach them how to cope with it later.
Agreed.
Because like that's really where all these issues are coming from, is because like
Oh
they're
yeah.
not teaching them how to cope with this later, and they're putting such a stigma on even like the members just going out and seeking help or going to talk to the chaplain about the issues that you're having. You're told that you're not a real soldier, or you're not a real Marine, you're not a real Army man, you're not a real Ranger, you're not a real SEAL, you're not a real whatever they want to throw at you if you have to go seek out mental help for this. And that's some serious bullcrap, okay?
Yeah. Like
That's,
borderline punishment for asking for help. It's horrible.
yeah. Yeah. I remember Andrew telling me a story about he went to go talk to the chaplain because he was having like some negative thoughts. And like for the entire next week and then some, like his unit was just like ripping on him for going to
Oh,
see the chaplain. And I'm
oh,
like,
that's
y'all
horrible.
make it so hard. I'm like, y'all are the reason he wants to go talk to the chaplain in the first place, and now you're ripping on him for going to talk to the chaplain because you're being shitty
Yeah.
people. Make it
Yeah,
make
and
sense.
most of those people probably need to go talk to someone and get help
I'm
as
like,
well.
you need to go talk to people because that's not normal behavior.
Yeah.
It's fine if you're having problems coping. Most people have problems coping because we didn't
Yeah.
spend a whole lot of time in the education system teaching kids how to cope with different things. We
Exactly.
spent more time on like reading and math, and my nose is running and I don't have any tissues out here, so this is going to be fun. Okay. um but yeah, from like the conversations that I've had not only with Andrew but with other members of the military, is that they just like whenever something was wrong with them, they were told to basically suck it up because they're a Marine. Like,
Hmm.
he went to go get his wisdom teeth pulled out, not because he needed to, but because he wanted days off of work from the harassment and the abuse. And he went into the doc and they're like, "You're a Marine, you don't need anesthesia," and just ripped
Oh,
out his wisdom teeth. So,
oh
like,
my gosh.
stop it.
Yikes. Yeah.
Treat them like
Ugh.
they are human people. They deserve anesthesia. They deserve the mental health care. If you're not going to teach them how to cope and like not have a solid system for like mental health checks within your units, then what do you expect when they get out?
Yep.
I don't
Yeah, it's
understand. You're going to
crazy.
have to explain it to me. Um, the so most of the stuff that I deal with Andrew on a daily basis is mostly just trying to get over those things and just having a lot of communication about when you're having a bad day. Um,
Mm.
I try to do that myself because I have a ton of mental health issues as well. So I try to let him know, like, I'm having a really rough day
Hmm.
today, so just chill.
Yeah.
If you're like,
Yeah.
don't poke the bear, you're gonna cause a
Yeah.
collapse.
Yeah. No,
That's
I
it.
agree.
Just like,
Yeah, I
so yeah, it's just like being a normal person. So I'm like, how are you doing today? How are you feeling? Are you like, is your anxiety worse today? How are things going for you? And trying to get them to really like open up and make that a normal thing for them to like check in with their spouse or their partner about like where they're at with their mental health.
yeah.
Because I can't, like, he has some memory issues from dealing with the PTSD and whatnot. So it's it's a really big thing that I need him to do on a regular basis. I'm like, you need to check in with me about this stuff. You need to let me know these things, because most of the time when he goes and has his therapy appointments, like, he has to have like a list of stuff and I have to provide most of that list just because he's
Yeah.
completely forgotten about some of the things that have
Yeah.
happened. And
Yeah,
I'll
I'd
like
say that's
tell him about it and he's like, I I
Yeah.
don't remember that. And I'm like, ah,
Oh. Yeah, I definitely say the biggest struggle that I have on a day-to-day basis with Jonathan is definitely the communication. Like, it's okay for you to communicate where you are with your mental health today. It's okay for you to say what your needs are and stuff. And he just pins it all up inside. And you're right. I don't, Jonathan's, forgetfulness isn't caused from PTSD, but I think just maybe part of the coping mechanism is just
mhm.
moving on. We're not going to dwell on it. I'm not going to assess it any deeper than I have to. We're going to move on. So, yeah, they don't teach them how to handle emotions at all. They just teach them how to
It's
suppress
like,
them. So,
nope, here's a gun. You're going out to the firing range. That's how you're going to deal with it.
yep.
And I'm like, that's not constructive to the rest of
Yeah.
society, man.
No, not at all.
You got to have something better. Okay. You got to have some
Yeah.
people there, some mental
Hmm.
health professionals to teach these people how to cope with these things and who they're supposed to
Hmm.
go to and like how often. And like, you got to provide better support for them because
Yeah.
it's not going great. And if you get
Yeah.
one person that pops out of it that says that they're totally fine, like, no, they're not. They're not. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're
Odds
going to,
are.
like, no.
Yeah.
Like, I've had a very positive experience with the military. Sure you have.
Uh,
I'm sure that's the case. I'm sure you're not completely
oh,
blocking some things out of your memory. I'm sure that's what's
yeah.
happening. And in case
Yeah. I
anybody's
just.
watching on YouTube and seeing that I'm wearing my rings not on the right finger, I don't know what happened, but my ring finger like swelled up to the point where it's like 4 times bigger than my normal ring
Oh
size.
no.
So I can only wear my wedding and engagement ring on my pinky right now. So that's fun.
Oh no. That's the
I don't
worst. That's
even
the
know why.
worst.
I'm like, I
Uh,
don't even know why, but I can't like get it to go back even like on my finger. I'd have to like really like twist and turn and like
oh yeah.
put
Oh, it's not worth it at that point.
it's I'm just like forget it. It's
Oh,
no, we're not doing this.
no.
Um Expectations for romantic relationships with a vet.
Mm.
No.
Yeah, I didn't have any expectations at all. um,
My
I
Yeah, my expectations weren't so much based on whether he was a vet or not. My expectations were more set upon like what I needed in a partner
yeah.
versus he's a vet, so now what?
Yeah.
I mean, that basically just told me like, okay, so he served time in the military. He's probably got some stories to tell about that, but I'm not gonna go. I wasn't going into the relationship assuming that he had like a massive load of trauma on the back end of it or anything. I just went into it like it was a normal relationship. I guess
Yeah.
call me woke or whatever, but that's just
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
met
no,
like yeah, the space that I was in when I was like meeting him, I just like smacked the camera with my knee.
uh,
The mental space that I was in, I had gone on like several first dates with people who had just like didn't understand like anything about like my background and they were just like all of that is brand new to me and I don't really care about it. And I was like, okay, well then I guess this isn't really going to work out if
yeah.
you don't care about if you don't
Uh,
care to learn anything about my background, then this isn't going to work out. So I was just like in this headspace of like I had to unload all of my crap right away, so that that was the if one of those things was a deal breaker for the other person, then so be it. So I
yeah.
was just like, all right, here's all the crazy right off the bat, and I'm like,
Oh,
take some time to to think about this, and they're like, no,
it's
I'm not
important.
interested, and I'm like, cool, and then I just move on with my life.
Yeah. No, I was kind of the same way. I was very like, upfront. Like, these are the things that I struggle with, and I want you to know that that's going to be a part of our lives. And so having that, expectation of, well, I'm putting forward what's wrong with me, so I should be open to hearing what's wrong with them. Just I knew a relationship with open communication was incredibly important. So yeah, it really didn't matter whether or not they were in the military to me, as long as they were open to that kind of communication and they could jive with my problems and I could jive with their problems. And yeah.
Yeah, that and he had to get along with Winnie, and that was like Winnie had to
Oh, yeah.
be okay with him, and like on first meeting, she was not.
Oh,
Like,
no.
"Ugh, large, scary man coming into safe
Oh,
space. Do not like.
oh,
No, thank you." So I was like, okay, but she settled down, and then he was really good with her. So,
oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah,
but at
obviously that
first,
worked
like the
out.
first 20 minutes were really touch and go there. I was like, I don't know
Oh,
about that.
oh,
You can't get along with Doggo. We're gonna have some problems.
oh, yeah. Oh,
She's
yeah,
not
that would
going
be no
anywhere.
trouble. Yeah,
If
no.
she don't like you, there's
Oh,
something wrong.
yeah, well, I'm glad she came around to him.
Yeah. Let's see. Does being a veteran have any more like social impacts that we aren't? This question is phrased really weird. I just want to say that. Do you find yourself like doing? Wow, those are two separate thoughts. Okay, so like, how are our social lives impacted by
Yeah.
being married to a veteran or being
Hmm.
with a veteran?
Hmm. Mm, it's
I
hard for
guess,
me to say because the
yeah,
last, year and a half of my life, there hasn't been much social anyways. And
nope.
we've been married for about a year and a half. So, um,
Living in the introvert status, and you're just like,
oh,
I'm good.
you
What
told me.
social life?
I know,
I'll
right? You
call
told
people
me.
on the phone and I'll send them text messages, but after that, I'm like, I can only do so much.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Um,
Uh, like even before that, I don't think our social life was really impacted too much. Um, but I don't know. We're both kind of the same level as far as what we want to put into our social life. So
yeah,
I think I might be a special case. I'm sure there are others that, are more
I
like that.
I don't know. Like nowadays, we spend a lot of time like we just got our second Xbox back, so now we can like play video games together again. Um,
Nice.
so most of our social interaction comes from like the internet. So
Yeah. Yeah.
what
No,
a
I'm
what a
there.
age we live in. But
Oh,
I'll mostly just like send texts to my friends and check in on them, and they'll send texts to me,
yeah.
and whatnot. But like they all live out of state because we moved out
Yeah.
of the state. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like,
Same
well,
here. Yeah. We're on opposite
um,
coasts of all my friends and family, so
yeah.
we
He's
can't
been like,
exactly
we
get
should have.
together.
Yeah, he. There's been times where Andrew said we should have more friends. We have like one or two friends that live in Colorado, and one of
Mhm.
them's moving out of the state. And I'm like, okay. He's like, we should have
Oh,
more friends. And I'm like,
oh,
I'm okay. I have my
yeah.
friends. I have coworkers that I get along well with. I have we have our one friend that we hang out a lot. Well, not a lot because there were other issues with COVID that we had to be extra precautious and whatnot. But we checked in with them a lot, um, and it was just a lot of hanging out with people online. That was basically it.
Yeah.
But the only like social consequences that I really face, um, it better not. It just did the thing
Oh
again.
no.
Okay.
We're
I'm
good.
just
We're
going to
good.
keep going and ignore that that just happened. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
The only social interaction that we kind of faced is we can't go to listen to any play like live playings of the 1812 overture because of the cannons. Um,
Oh,
he had I don't remember. It was a very large shell that wasn't supposed to go off. It was
oh
supposed to
no.
be a training round, but it went off near him during a training incident. So the cannons were a little much for him. Also, if it's outside, I'm definitely taking the dog with us, and she was also not appreciative of the cannons in the 1812
Ah,
overture. So live music for the 4th of July is not really on the table for us anymore. And fireworks, he doesn't really care for. But we're in
Yeah.
like a really great place to watch fireworks, and that really bums me out because like
Oh,
the road that we live off of is on like a really it's one of the higher foothills in the area. So like we can see all the way through like downtown Denver from where we're at, and we can also look on the other side of the road and see the fireworks in Boulder and like Boulder's suburbs and whatnot. So like you can see like every community in the Denver area is like fireworks going off on the 4th of July, and
dang.
it's such an incredible and like unique experience. Um, we don't listen to any of the quote unquote patriotic songs on the radio because I have my own um, issues with that, especially like the 1812 overture. Like it's
Yeah.
Russian celebrating the fact that they dominated Prussia again. Like this is not American. Stop
Oh,
this.
yeah.
We have other
Yeah.
music. We're fine.
Yes.
And then like half of the other stuff is like God bless America, and I'm like, y'all, Constitution.
Oh,
Like, can
yeah.
we just tone that down a little bit? We're excluding so many people from like
Yeah.
holiday celebrations just because of that. Just that's my own thing. Um,
Yeah.
you just like everybody to feel like they're included in the celebrations of things, and then like everything else. I'm like, just can we be inclusive to all the
Yeah.
people? But I don't like
Yeah.
people feeling
Especially,
sad.
especially on a holiday that's supposed to be celebrating, independence of a country that has become quite diverse.
Yeah,
So, yeah. Yeah. I
yeah.
get you
And
there.
I'm just like, you just tone it down, like a
Yeah.
notch. Um, then the other like half of this question was phrased more along the lines of, do we spend any time doing research and trying to understand um, vernacular mental health like terms or like things we can do to help our partners?
Yeah, I actually several years before I met Jonathan was involved in a project about bringing awareness to veterans, especially the mental health and the stigmas they face and the struggles they face with the VA and stuff. It was a thing in Hollywood. They were trying to make it into a movie and stuff. I'm not actually sure what became of it because it got delayed
Who
in
knows?
production so long that I dropped out of being involved in pre-production stuff. But yeah, during that period of my life, I couldn't have been much older than 18 or 19. But during that period of my life, I was, very much into research, and I mean, I had to be to a certain extent, but uh, yeah, and listening to veteran stories because that's what the movie was going to be, was actually actual veteran stories. And yeah, it was a really hard time to get that funded. Yeah, like to the
Yeah,
point where I don't even know if it got funded. It's really sad that
I
actually
haven't heard
I don't know.
anything.
Yeah,
Not that
yeah,
I
yeah.
keep
I
my
don't
ear to
know.
the ground on too many
Yeah,
things. I
exactly.
can't do
It
that.
was supposed, yeah, it was supposed to be, something that would be released in theaters. I don't know if I ended up just, a direct to streaming service kind of thing. I don't know. I didn't follow through with it. I think they might have
I
changed the
don't know.
name at some point. But
Hmm.
the struggle of being able to share these really like moving stories, it was really amazing to see how many people turned away from that. It was really upsetting. But I learned a lot about it
Yeah.
then. So, I like to keep up to date about the things going on, but I don't think it's really changed too much, unfortunately. Um,
Yeah.
so
I just try to, with everything that comes out on like social media and whatnot, just try to keep myself aware of like how language impacts others, and trying
yeah.
to make sure that I'm finding ways to minimize the impact of that. Um,
Oh yeah.
and when I was in high school, I took a psychology course, and that I really enjoyed the teacher, and she taught the AP Psych course, so I took the AP Psych course. And then I took a lot of like my extra coursework in college extra. I was a music education major. I didn't have time for that crap, okay? But if I had to fit in like a sciences or like a sociology kind of course or something, I almost always made sure that it was a psychology course. Um, just because I was aware, kind of like, I started becoming more aware of like what was happening within like my own brain and being more aware of like what went on during my own childhood and whatnot, and finding words to be able to like describe that. And I had a very traumatic year in college too, so that was like I even just stopped going to classes for a year, and that's when I decided I needed to adopt a dog. So you can tell that I was definitely using rational thinking at the time. It was like,
Oh,
I can't get out of bed. You know what will help me get out of bed? A dog. Adopt. Um,
well, I
it
mean,
worked. It
furry
was
friends,
effective.
man. Yeah, yep.
It was effective until I started being too busy for her, and then I had
Oh,
to send her to go live with my mom, which she loved, and then was like
oh,
severely disappointed when she came back to live with me. She was like,
oh,
"Oh no, I
oh,
thought this was the permanent arrangement.
oh no.
I like grandma more." And I'm like, "You're
Oh
supposed to
no.
like grandma more. That's how it works."
Yes. Oh gosh.
And you're just like, okay, rude dog. That's what you
Oh,
get for adopting a corgi, by the way. They're very sassy,
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
very, very personality driven.
Oh yeah.
Um, things other people should know. Oh, golly, before dating a veteran,
Hmm.
that like other people should know.
That's a good question. I was thinking about that one for a while. Um, I was thinking about it for a while and still haven't come out with an answer, but
Um, I'm a person who didn't grow up around guns, so I had to become comfortable with having guns in the house very quickly. And then on top of the mental health issues, now I'm in charge of the guns. Um,
oh, oh,
I don't
yeah,
know how that happened, but I would like it to unhappen. That would be great. I was like, I don't,
yeah,
it's not great. I don't know what to do with
yeah,
it. And like, I like having to make sure that they're in like good working condition and being responsible gun owners and everything. I have to make sure that like he's having a good mental health day before I can like tell him, be like, you haven't cleaned the guns in a while. You should probably do that. And be like, oh, they haven't been fired, so I don't want to. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Your guns. I don't care. You
yeah,
do you. I know
yeah,
nothing about keeping a gun healthy. So if
yeah,
you say it doesn't need to be done, then whatever. But like, yeah,
yeah.
it's just knowing that military culture is very, very different
Oh
than
yeah.
civilian culture.
Mhm.
There's a lot more. You have a lot of the people that go into the military when they join, they're either straight out of high school or straight out of college. So they're in these really really strong formative years. And so they're still experimenting a lot with language. They're still experimenting a lot with like what's too far. And just because of what the military season deals with on a regular basis, they're more prone to using totally inappropriate language
Oh
sometimes.
yeah.
Or just like thinking some things are like really funny and like nobody else gets it and they're like, damn, that was dark. And you're just like, that's
Yeah.
not funny, like,
Yeah, I know.
kind of thing. And I'm like, no, you need to, that's not,
Yeah,
most of us on the outside don't
joke
appreciate
like
that
that.
kind of like
Yeah,
just
humor. Yeah.
bluntness. And I
Hmm.
know that I tend to be like overly sarcastic and blunt about things, but at the same time, like I don't go around I stopped telling dead baby jokes when I was in high school because I was like,
Yeah.
part of me at some point was like, ick.
Yeah.
And I should stop. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. The kind of reverse of that coin is too for me, because I wasn't a part of his military experience. I wasn't in his
Yeah.
life then. So there'll be times where he'll make jokes about, base and different aspects of military life, and a little bit later I'll make a joke and it doesn't really land, and then I'm like,
It's like, that
maybe
doesn't
I
make
don't
any
have,
sense.
yeah, maybe I
You're
don't
like,
have
okay,
the
well,
platform to speak about this. Maybe I shouldn't make these jokes. Uh, yeah, because it's me having a civilian outlook on a lifestyle that
like,
I
we
have
don't
never
we don't
been.
do violence jokes here, man. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. Even like the other day, he was. I mean, we're from California, but he was stationed on the East Coast. We moved to the East Coast now, even though he's been out for 3 years. And he took me by the base that he was stationed at
mm-hmm,
for the first time. And, seeing it and being like, wow, this is a real thing, not just a story you're telling me, was
mm-hmm,
a very interesting experience. And I know there's like a lot of jokes about, military spouses and stuff. And I have my own personal like experience with military spouses, even not they don't have anything to do with our relationship, Jonathan's and
mm-hmm.
I's relationship. They're like friends that became military spouses. So, I'll make a joke here or there and I'll be like, maybe I shouldn't joke about that, because I'm not, I don't know, maybe I'm being
Yeah,
insensitive and I don't understand the culture like they do. And maybe I need better perspective. So, it's just realizing that if you're dating a veteran, you had different experiences. They didn't have the experiences that you did during those formative years, and you didn't have their experiences. So,
yeah.
yeah,
I didn't duct tape 40s to my hand and drink them. Like, that was never a
yeah,
thing.
yeah, no,
So,
no.
and they're like, that's a light drinking day, and I'm like, ah.
Right, okay.
Red flags.
Yeah,
So maybe talk to somebody about that, because that being a light day
yeah.
is like very
Danger?
concerning on the outside
Yeah.
world. We're like, no, no,
Yeah.
that's not normal.
No.
Please, no. I,
Yeah.
I mean, like, the closest thing that was to that in college is basically like fraternity life, and I'm like,
Yeah.
a bunch of dudes running around making fools of themselves was never something that I was like into. So I was like,
Yeah.
no, I don't have
Agreed.
time for
Agreed.
this nonsense, guys. Like, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but it's basically just knowing that, like, you're gonna have to probably at some point deal with the VA,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be a pain in the butt, which is a
Oh
very
yeah.
nice segue into the next question about, like, what about the VA frustrates you? I don't like the rules that if you live within a certain amount of time and they can get you in within like a certain amount of days, that you have to see them for service. I'm sorry. Not everybody who's using VA services is retired.
Yeah.
Not everybody that's using VA services has enough money that they can live off of to, miss that much work and risk being fired. Like, it's just
Mm-hmm.
not a thing. Not a thing.
Yeah.
So, like, he screwed up his foot during OCS, because they
Oh,
squished the training cycles down to basically injure nearly 80% of their squads. And I
oh
was like,
gosh.
that's a problem. And
Yeah.
they're like, most people leave for being injured anyways. And I'm like, again,
Well,
a problem, because you're turning
yeah.
away people who would be good leaders
Mhm.
because they can't like, they got RNG
Physically
chose them
abused.
and their number today. I don't know what to tell you besides, like, it just happened to be their day, and it happened to be their number that came up in the deck of chance, and that's it. So you're turning away good leaders for chance, and then, like, other okay, I'm getting off topic, but so he needs
Oh,
physical therapy for his foot because he's torn or broke or snapped nearly every single tendon in his left foot.
oh,
And they have x-rays from, like, before, while he was in, of showing that that was not the case before, so it had to have happened during military time. Um, However, they want him to drive an hour away
oh,
to go get physical therapy and have an hour-long appointment multiple times a week.
oh,
And
jeez.
I'm like, So that's not going to work because he still has to work, guys. And they're
Yeah,
like, well, too
yeah,
bad because he lives within an hour. And I'm like, right. Okay. He technically lives within an hour, but you're not including Denver traffic.
yeah, yeah.
So no, it's not
Oh,
going to take an hour. Two, he still has to work and you're not taking that into account. You're just kind of being like, well, our side says you can do it, so do it. And I'm like, that's not how that works. And then
yeah,
on top of that, if they're not able to make these appointments and whatnot, they risk losing their disability rating because of it. And I'm like, that's not acceptable. Like, you
yeah,
no, the military screwed up his foot. You need to contract out and find somebody closer because he still needs to maintain his job. He's not
yep,
in a position to just be like, okay, no job. It's fine.
yeah,
Like, there
yeah,
needs to be something in place to just let that happen. Like,
yeah,
you contract out for a bunch of other stuff. I don't understand why you can't
yeah,
contract out for physical therapy when he's like, I can't do that due to like needing to have a job.
yeah.
Like, we
Yeah,
have to
that's
have two
insane.
incomes in order to live within this area or it doesn't work. We're both too highly qualified for a lot of different jobs and we're suckers who will take whatever they throw at us and we're able to get hired for. So like we're in a weird position of we have degrees, but we don't have master's degrees to do like entry level crap.
Oh,
So I guess we'll take a rung lower than that. It's so stupid. It's just like I don't understand what you want us to do. Like we have to be able to afford to live. We need to be
exactly.
able to afford food.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that requires him to work.
Yeah, I don't know. That's such a flawed system.
Like
And it hurts so many people, and I don't. It's just I don't know. I don't have too
I
many
can't
like.
even I can't even imagine what people in rural communities like
Oh
veterans
yeah.
in rural communities must have to go through in this country because it's so much
Oh
red
yeah.
tape and it should
Hmm.
not happen. They
Oh
like
yeah.
if the veteran says they can't if they are someone who can't drive anymore or like their
Hmm.
injury prevents them from driving or they're mentally unstable to the point where they shouldn't be driving, like
Hmm.
you cannot ask them to hop in a
Yeah.
car and do that. Like if there's a reason that they give you that doesn't just seem like a bunch of bullcrap excuses trying to get out of doing it, you should in all of your power and all of your like resources be able to make that work. I
Yep.
don't understand why
Agreed.
that's a problem.
Yeah.
And
I haven't. Yeah. Oh, continue.
yeah, I'm just like if he says it's not something that works, that should put it back on you to figure it out
Yep.
because he served his time in the military. He is entitled to medical care. Okay? The, this entire country was founded on the fact that we all deserve life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And part of life is medical care. He deserves the right to medical care. He deserves those rights that were promised to him by the recruiters all that time ago. He deserves to get physical therapy for his foot. It's not that hard. I don't know why they're making it so difficult, but like he's risking losing his disability rating and his job if he takes action to get physical therapy for his foot. That should not be something
It's
that veterans have to deal
ridiculous.
with. It should
Not
just
at
be,
all.
okay, well, let me see if we can get to one of our contracted places and see if we can find a place that's closer to you. So you
Yeah.
don't have to lose that much time off of work.
Yeah.
That easy. It's that easy. Like, I
Yep.
just, it really makes me mad. And my grandfather goes through this all the time because they have to set up appointments from like where they go in the winter and where they go in every other time of the year and whatnot. And half the time they make the appointments to the wrong place. And he just gets so
Oh.
grumpy over it. And I'm like,
Oh
this should
yeah.
not be a problem.
Oh
This should
yeah.
not be a problem. He should be able to call when he notices that there's a problem and say, hey, you scheduled this at the wrong location. It needs to be at this location. And they should say, oh, okay, our bad. And not say,
Yeah.
okay, well, then you have to cancel this appointment and then set it up at the other location again. And he's like, I don't
Oh.
have 5 hours to sit on the phone to figure that crap out again.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Oh
have that.
gosh.
And I'm like, why are you making it so difficult? These people are like,
Mhm.
they served our country, they protected our happy butts who sat here and did nothing but exist. So, like,
Yep.
if you could just take care of their medical needs, that would be great.
Agreed.
Why
Yeah.
is it difficult?
I don't, yeah, I don't have too many personal experiences with the VA. I've heard a lot of stories like that. Personal as in, Jonathan having an issue with them, other than, the standard, they don't really care enough to make a difference. But Jonathan worked at the VA, or, yeah, he was a work study there for, I don't know, like a year or something like
Hmm.
that. But especially the longer he worked there, he would come home from work and just look like the life had been sucked out of him. And not because it was like demanding work, but because he was seeing, brothers and sisters from the military just in these horrible positions, not getting
Hmm.
the care they needed. And yeah, and I
Yeah,
I was like, you don't, I know, I was like, we need to find you a different job because
I
and it's
can't stand to
horrible.
see
It's
you like this.
horrible. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
horrible.
Um,
That's a place that people are going for help, and even the staff there feels like that when they leave. That's insane. I don't know.
Yeah. And I
Uh,
feel like that's mostly not a problem of like the VA itself, but that's more of a problem of them being disgustingly underfunded and not having enough legislation, or like the doctors really just having their hands tied on
mm-hmm.
certain
Yeah,
aspects
no, I
because they're
agree.
so tied up by red
Yep.
tape, and they're just like,
Oh
I
yeah.
can't do anything for you. Like,
Oh
I
yeah.
know what needs to be done for you, but since I'm
Exactly.
practicing at the VA, I have
Yep.
no options for you. And that
Oh yeah.
blows.
Yeah.
And that should not be the case. The doctors at the
Yeah.
VA should have every power in the world to still do all the same crap that they would at a civilian hospital. Like,
Oh yeah.
point
Agreed.
blank, period. Like,
Yep.
none of this red tape. And
Mm-hmm.
that all, to me, comes back to the fact that they have to tie all their medical needs to the military in order to get that service. And I'm like, forget
Mm-hmm.
it. If that's what's tying everything up, cut that piece of tape. Everybody who serves in the military gets their health care taken care of.
Yeah.
Point blank, period. Done. Okay? If that's what
Yep.
needs to be done, that's what needs to be done. Take care of these people. Like, we have such a
Mm-hmm.
problem with homeless vets in this country because they don't feel
Oh
like
yeah.
they deserve the health care. They just don't feel like they deserve to be part of the civilian world. And like the system is stacked against them. Why?
Exactly. Yeah.
Why are you doing
Yeah.
that? They shouldn't have
Yeah.
to, like, my firm
Jump
belief
through
is they
hoops.
shouldn't have to worry about housing. They should be given cost of living every single month. Like, it basically should just be taken care of for them. Like,
I mean,
whatever the
these
cost of
people,
living for the area that they're in is, that's how much they get per month for housing. Okay? If
yeah,
they find a
these
place
these
that's less
people,
than that, whatever. Okay?
yeah,
But
great,
that's what
great
it
for
is.
them. Yeah.
Cost of living is taken care of. Okay, they should be provided. There should be so many social workers that have like relatively small caseloads. I'm talking maybe 30 to 40 people, and that's it. And their job alone is to work with veterans and advocate on their behalf for their care that they're supposed to get. So if they don't get a job because of like stereotyping and like how everything goes, then they have the resources to get a lawyer and sue the places that are discriminating against veterans for things that they have no business discriminating against them for. Like,
Yep.
Andrew was declined a job because they felt like his prior military experience would make him too militaristic of a leader. The city actually said that to him. So places don't even care about getting sued by veterans because they know that they can't shell out the
Yeah.
money for a lawyer, and that's crap.
Yep.
He should have
Mhm.
every right in the world to march down to that city hall and be like, you guys actively did not give me a job because I'm a veteran. I'm
Yeah.
suing you. And they should go, problem.
Yep.
Okay? The
Yeah,
veteran's
it's
preference,
discrimination.
especially in the government, only really goes to that first round of interviews. So, yeah, he gets more first round interviews than everybody else, but because he's passionate about the jobs that he applies for. He's very knowledgeable, and to the point where sometimes he knows more than the other people who are already working there and at a higher level than him. That they're just like, you're too aggressive and confident. Excuse me.
Oh my gosh.
You're too passionate and confident in your ability to do this job, so we're not going to give it to you. Is some coded BS nonsense to not give him a job that he is qualified for because they are going with something else. He's had HR departments literally tell him that he's the best candidate, but for like the job, and if he was on one of like the round, like when they give HR the 2 resumes and the cover letters and notes from the interviews, when they turn all that into HR, he would have gotten the job almost every single time. And that's some crap.
Yeah.
That's some crap. Because HR has to make the decision based on who's the most qualified and who is less of a risk to hire at that point. So it's like, if he on paper and through the interview notes and everything is the best candidate for the job, you are actively deciding to go against turning that in because you know that he would get the job on that last round. You know it, so you have to exclude him at that point because you don't want him because you are scared because he's a military veteran. That's it. Like, he's a tall person, he's wider set, so you're just like, well, he's going to snap at some point.
Oh, that's horrible.
And I'm like, that's some crap. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But yeah, veterans shouldn't have to deal with any of that, and they should basically just like, everything should go through, like, they have their social worker, and if they're upset about something, they should be able to go to their social worker who is qualified to give them mental health care. And actually pay the social workers because they barely make more than educators. And fun fact, they have to get a master's degree in order to be a practicing social worker. So, barely get paid more than teachers, have to get a master's degree in order to work in the profession. That's that's a different topic. But like they need to have somebody to advocate on their behalf that checks in on them, that they are required to like see in person or on video chat a number of times, that can help them get what they need in order to survive, because they gave everything. They signed up to have their life taken away by the government. That's way more than I could ever do, because my body would never, they would take one look at my medical record and they'd be like, what a freaking joke, man. Get out of here, scrub. And I'd be like, yes, sir. You got it. I'm sorry for embarrassing your presence. I will leave. But yeah, the VA doctors are some of the hardest workers, and I feel really bad that they have their hands tied behind all this crap. And the people who make the laws in this country they're not allowed to spend enough time figuring out how to figure out these issues, because they spend John Oliver did a segment, they spend literally like 80% of their time fundraising for their next campaign.
Oh, that's so ridiculous.
80% of your time as a congressperson in DC is spent fundraising for your next installment. Like, how are you supposed to have time to like read these issues? How are you supposed to hear from your constituents what needs to happen?
Exactly. Yeah.
You can't. You just can't. You have to spend most of that time on the phone begging for money. Like, that's not what that job was for. No. So many things are just like busted with the system stacked against everybody. There's just like, we got to gut all of this stuff. And
it's a big spider web.
From my digging through, from my digging through the laws and like talking with the VA doctors when like my grandpa's in care and whatnot, it all just boils back to they can't, like, unless they're a certain percent disabled unless they're 100% disabled by the military. Like, the military just trashed them that bad that they are so unable to do stuff that there's nothing they can do. Their hands are tied. They're like, well, they need X, Y, and Z, but that's not related to their disability rating, so they can't do anything. They're like, I can't fix that. I can't do anything about that. And they're like, well, we can't afford to go to a civilian hospital. And they're like, I don't know. There's nothing I can do. And I'm like, just cut it. Just cut the red tape. Get it out of the way. Let the doctors be doctors. It's like, let the teachers be teachers. But, you just want outlines.
Yeah.
All we need is outlines. All we need is bullet points. Why do we need to have so many paragraphs that say nothing?
Right.
Yeah, it really bothers me that like he's actively reaching out and trying to get all this care and just can't get it. And he's risking by like having to turn down, like, I can't do that physical therapy stuff. It's like, it's too time consuming for me. My job is like too far away and everything, and I can't take that much time off of work. I'm starting a new job. That's not okay. I can do it later. And they're like, no, you need to do it now. And I'm like, you shouldn't have to risk your disability rating because you have a job. You have a job.
You shouldn't have to choose between the two of those things. That's horrible.
That's not acceptable. No. That and the absurd amount of paper mail that we get, there should be a system that we can opt out of that. Like, good Lord. We get everything is sent to us like 5 times, and I'm like, y'all are wasting so much paper. Like, you should have an opt-out system for us younger, hipper, square folks who know how to use the internet. Their website is, for their medical stuff, is some crap. It's terrible. Oh my God. I'm like, can you message your doctor? And he's like, no, that's not even an option. I'm like, what?
Oh. Wow.
You can't just like send them a message saying like, hey, I just remembered I was supposed to talk to you about X, Y, Z. Like, I was supposed to talk to you about X, but I'm a dum-dum and didn't listen to my wife and didn't write down a list. So I left that out because, again, dum-dum. So here's what I wanted to talk to you about X. And then like send a message so that they can have that as like additional information to help them make better choices for you. They didn't give him really any options when it came to like medications regarding like mental health and like the management of that. It was just kind of like, oh, I'm prescribing you something. And I'm like, okay, so you should ask them to tell you more about that medication, ask about the side effects, ask if there's other options, ask what you should be looking for in terms of, is this medication working? And he didn't know any of that, and they didn't prompt him through any of it. And I'm like, nah, I only know this stuff because I've been on so many medications that I know what to ask for now. Nobody taught me, like, I just had to learn all of that through experience. So, like, you need to ask those questions, like, what dosage are you giving me? How does this medication work? What side effects should I be expecting? What should I look for in terms of if the medication is effective or not effective? I mean, some of those are really dumb, but like, it is what it is. And like talking about like, hey, can we communicate about like dosage adjustments and whatnot, making sure that there's like lower dosages available. If like the one that they start you at, you can back down off of. If the side effects are too much before trying to switch to a completely different medication, because different medication classes require you to literally step down off of it before you can start trying something else. So like can we just knock it down a little bit first and see if that doesn't like make things better before we try to switch it to something else? Because normally, in my experience with knocking down dosages, I find a place that works really well for me, and then they're like, okay, but go less. And I'm like, no, it's working really great right now. And they're like, no, we're switching you to a different medication. I'm like, no, it's not happening. I found the good spot. We're stopping there. And sometimes you get doctors that will let you do that, and sometimes you don't. And if I ever hit a doctor that doesn't let me do that, then I'm like, okay, now who else that you work with will let me do this? They're like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? And I'm like, you're not taking enough time to talk to me about this. You're not explaining things well enough to me. I found a really good spot where I'm feeling like really good about where this medication is. I'm experiencing less side effects from it. I'm doing great. Can we put a
Mm.
pin in it for now about switching? They're like, but you said earlier that you wanted to switch. And I'm like, yeah. And then we backed off of it and I changed my mind.
There you go.
So, because like he had an experience when he was younger and going through school with being put on ADHD medication and then feeling like it just sucked the life out of him. And so he just
Mm.
stopped taking it and was like, medication doesn't work for me. And I was like, yeah, that's the wrong conclusion to come to.
Yeah, there's so many different
Dosage
options.
was not right for me. That medication was
Yeah.
not right for me. I usually start with dosage and then I worry about the medication later. So, like, if the dosage isn't right, we either increase or decrease depending on what issues we're having. Okay? Then deal with other stuff from
Mhm.
there. So, is what it is. But
Mhm.
yeah, it from the phone calls that I've been like in the car on the way home from work while they're talking about, they don't have the time to be able to like do any of that with their patients.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
very like underfunded. The system, the computer system is so ancient. It's there's no
Yeah.
other options for them but to like call in and try to be able to talk to them, and they don't even get like direct lines to the nursing staff, so they can't even just like call the nurse and be like, hey, I'm experiencing X, Y, and Z, can you talk to the doctor for me? They
Wow.
can't do that because the doctors don't have time, and that's
Oh
a problem.
man.
So I'm like,
Yeah, this is extremely problematic.
need
Mm.
more funding so that
Yep.
our veterans can get the treatment that they deserve. They
Yep.
signed up for everything to be taken away from them. Point blank
Mhm.
period. They deserve more than that.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay, he's getting persnickety about the length of time that we've been doing this.
uh,
You
he may
stay
have to
too
edit a
long.
little
It's
bit, but
fine.
it's
You're gonna
fine.
have to cut some stuff out. It's fine. You're gonna have to edit it more than you probably would have normally. It's whatever. Um, Anything, last question here. Is there anything that we feel like you had to change in your lives, in our lives, in order to like compensate for our veterans?
Hmm. I'm not sure if it necessarily happened when I started dating Jonathan or something that, I started doing once I was working with that project, but just perspective and, you know, people's experiences in life are so different than the next. And especially with military people, they have a totally different experience. They lived through something where you're right, they got all of their rights stripped away. And any sort of rights that they did still have are something they have to fight tooth and nail for
Hmm.
when they shouldn't. So yeah, it's they have experienced something that I've never experienced. Most of us have never experienced, and just keeping that perspective. And it's really easy because I never knew him while he was enlisted
Hmm.
um, to forget that sometimes and be like, dude,
Oh yeah.
come on, like this is not how we're behaving. This is not how we're doing this. But that's an experience in his life that shaped him, and he has to
Hmm.
work through stuff still. And I have to give him grace and perspective, and he has to meet me there too because I haven't had his experiences either. So yeah, just perspective and grace, lots of that.
Hmm. Um, so just kind of, I'm going to attempt to kind of like sum everything up and kind of go over a little bit of how like I had to change things. It's just like any other relationship that you have. You have to have that open communication, and if that's not working for the
Mhm.
two of you, then it's not working. It's fine to
Yeah.
acknowledge that. Um, Veterans are humans, just like the rest of us. Every single one of us goes through rough mental health days, and every single one of us just needs to have somebody around who does charitable listening and just allows them to freely talk about their feelings without judging them for like the
Yeah.
choices that they should have made. Um,
Mhm.
it's just, they don't, something that a lot of civilians don't understand, especially about the time that the veterans were in, is that they really didn't have those choices. They just
Yeah.
don't. So
Yeah.
you could say, you should have said XYZ to your CO. No. Okay? There are times
Yeah.
that if you would have said something like that to your CO, you would have gotten a rifle butt to your nose in the face in front of
Yeah.
everybody. Are you joking?
Mhm.
No, they don't have the right to say that. It's a
Yep.
problem. I think they
Mhm.
absolutely should have the right to say something like, hey, somebody in our unit is like assaulting me on a regular basis. They should be able to go to their CO for that. But instead, they're just like toughen up and beat their ass. Like, what?
Yeah.
No, not a
Messed up.
not a proportionate response. Okay, but like they're humans just like the rest of us. So just
Mhm.
treat them with that same kind of, we don't have the same experiences in our lives. We don't have the same lens that we view the world through. We don't have the same issues that you do. Like, that's
Mhm.
just what it is. So you have to treat them like you would any other human person, and they should have every single right that every other human person should have. It
Mhm.
should not be a problem. But with the VA and their military service, if it's an injury or a problem that they received during that service time, then it's going to be a fight. It's going to be a
Mhm.
fight, and you have to be willing to stand by them during that fight and encourage them to keep fighting that fight. Because unfortunately, for a lot of our veterans, they will get discouraged throughout that process and feel like, why am I even bothering doing this? Why am I wasting my
Yeah.
time fighting
Yeah.
for something that I should just have?
Yeah.
And I understand that sentiment. Like,
Mhm.
it's sometimes trying to find like good options for mental health care is incredibly exhausting, and
Oh
it
yeah.
should not be that way. But it is. It, and that's just something that we have to deal with right now. So if you are somebody who is dating a veteran, or maybe you're in a relationship that's struggling and you have a veteran as your partner, just make sure that you are open and kind and listen to them about their problems and support them through the fights that they need to go through. I
Mhm.
know one final thing that I get told by Andrew when he's in a bad state is, you can't understand, you weren't in. And that's
Mhm.
a tough wall to break down.
Yeah.
Um, but I encourage you to keep being supportive and telling them that that really sucks, and that they still need to talk to somebody who's more qualified than yourself. Or
Yeah.
even if you are a qualified person, that they are still not your patient, and you can't do that
Mhm.
ethically. Um,
Yeah.
it's like they need to talk to their mental health provider and not you, because you're their partner, not their mental health
Exactly.
professional. Okay.
Exactly.
Just keep reminding them that you're there to support them, you're there to help them, and you're there to do, you want the relationship to work, and you're there to work with them on that. And if at any point they toss in the towel on that, then, that's on them. Just
Yep.
openly communicate your feelings as well to them
Mhm.
and work together. The VA does provide counseling services for, I'm pretty sure, marriage. I don't know
Mhm.
about like other partnerships and whatnot, but typically if your spouse has like a mental health problem, they have to be being seen for that outside of the VA stuff. It's mostly just working on your relationship together with a veteran and a mental health professional, um, who deals with a lot of veteran things, during those marriage or relationship counseling sessions. Not sure on the relationship partnership part of it. I do know that marriage is available, but the relationship and partnership part of that, I cannot guarantee that for anybody else. So
Yeah.
don't come at me with that nonsense. Okay. I
Mm.
did not say that it was a thing. I know that the marriage is a thing, but other situations might not be a thing, and that sucks, and I'm sorry, but
Mhm.
it is what it is. Okay. So, anything else before I do the concluding spiel?
No, I think we got it all. Yeah.
Brains
I
are
enjoyed.
weird, aren't they?
I
Brains are
know. I
weird.
know. I
God.
enjoyed talking with you, though. I enjoyed having this time together.
I enjoyed talking with you too. We should message each other outside of this time
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we can be
Yeah.
supportive of each other
Yes.
and
I'm
share the
all for that.
nonsense.
I
Oh,
know.
goodness. Okay, so following our closing reminders, make sure that you check out the description box below on YouTube, or if you need any links or resources that you are emailing CounterAction 22? Yeah, 22 at gmail.com if you need help finding any of the resources that Andrew and Jonathan have put together for their audience to make sure that you guys are getting the help that you need. It is important that if you are listening to us and you're having a rough time, that you reach out to somebody and try to seek help, whether you are in the military or not. If you are a military service member, you can join the CounterAction Discord and talk with other veterans and current military members about problems you may be experiencing and just really get some sympathy with anything you might be going through as I smack the microphone. You are free to email. Make sure that if you're on YouTube, you're subscribing and you're liking and you're leaving a comment down below about stuff that you didn't know about. Or if you made it to this point, you're going to put the smiley face with the sunglasses on it in the comment box because you want to. Because that really, comments, likes, and subscribing really helps the gentleman out, and it really helps push out these videos within the algorithm so that more people can see the content and more people can be exposed to the channel and more people can get the help that they need. You are welcome to reach out to Jonathan and Andrew at any time through their email or on their Twitter page at CounterAction15. Thank you for being a part of the CounterAction to veterans issues. Thanks for joining us this time. Jonathan and Andrew will be back the next time. I don't know when that is. They will just be back the next time. And we'll see you guys in the comment section. Bye.
Bye.